I'm so glad you're with us on the Clank Howard Show, where it's about you learning ways to keep more of what you make. Our web address, clark.com. When you have a question for me, clark.com/ask. New information about a way criminals have figured out how to steal money from your business. It's really creepy what they've done. You need to know how to protect yourself, the company you've worked hard to build up. And then a half hour from now, we're going to talk about how important fitness is for you relative to your long-term health and lifespan. The numbers are absolutely shocking. Right now, I want to talk about the car that you own that, if you're a typical driver, sits idle between 93 and 97% of the time. So you have to pay for a car 100% of the time that the typical person is only using 3 to 7% of the time. That's leading to a bunch of new businesses that will play a match game where you can rent out your car that's sitting idle for cash to someone who needs wheels temporarily, and they take a cut of the action, but you're able to generate revenue from that idle car. And so think about how different this is than somebody taking their car in spare time and being an Uber or Lyft driver. In this case, you don't even have to be the driver. You just make money off of your wheels that would be doing nothing otherwise. Getaround is the one that's furthest along in allowing people to rent their cars out to strangers, and it's not at all unusual for someone to earn $500 or so a month just by renting out your own car. It's a car equivalent of Airbnb. These services are rushing to serve metro areas around the country. Getaround, as an example, is in 10 major metro areas right now. And when you go to rent a car, if you are looking to rent a car temporarily, you have an app on your phone for whatever the services you use, and then you find a car near you that's of the kind you want, and you click to rent it, and you go get the thing, and bam, you're off on your way. So it gives you the ability, as somebody looking for wheels, to get wheels on demand very quickly. And let's say you just need to go pick something up at a store and you need a vehicle for a couple hours, you got it. On the other hand, for you as the person renting out your car, your own automobile insurer is going to hate you for this. In fact, there's nothing in current auto insurance policies that accounts for people lending their cars out. So these services tend to have a flat $1 million. It was kind of like what Lyft and Uber have done, of liability coverage for you in the event that something happens while somebody is borrowing your car. But this is an area that a very tradition-bound conservative industry, the auto insurance industry, has not adjusted to, just like so many homeowners insurers have not adjusted to Airbnb. But this thing is absolutely going to spread around the country because it solves two problems. It makes your vehicle payment much more affordable and makes vehicles more available to people who just need them from time to time. Follow me at facebook.com/Clank Howard. Our web address, clark.com. When you got a question for me, go clark.com/ask. And Jeremy joins us on the Clank Howard Show. Jeremy, you're car shopping, and you want to know if getting a car with a rebuilt title or salvage title is okay or something you should avoid. Is that right?
That's correct, Clark.
So what kind of price is the vehicle with the rebuilt title?
It is just under $10,000.
And if you bought one used of a similar year that does not have a rebuilt title, how much would it be?
It is, the car is priced at about 75% of what it would be otherwise.
Okay. That, so you're getting like a 25% discount for it being rebuilt?
Correct.
I am always cautious about salvage title or rebuilt title cars, because that means it's been through a serious enough accident that it got a spoiled title and had to go to a shop that rebuilt it. And a car can, at that price range, the reason I was asking, that price range, the car took substantial damage. If it was a less expensive car, simply the airbags being deployed could be something that it would end up being totaled out. And for it to be sold again, it would have to be a salvage or rebuilt title. But in a $10,000 price point, the car otherwise would be $12,500. I'm guessing that it's had a lot of sewing up to put that car back together.
Okay.
So I would put that in a fairly high-risk category for you buying one with a rebuilt title.
Okay, that's all I needed to hear.
Are you very mechanically minded?
I mean, I can hold my own, although these days I tend to have other people do work for me if it's, if it needs special tools or that sort of thing.
Okay. This doesn't sound like it's your kind of car purchase.
No, it doesn't, but I was wondering because I'm not worried about resale. I drive vehicles until they die on the side of the road. So that was the one thing that I thought may make it worth it.
Yeah, but the thing with a salvage title car, a rebuilt title car, is that they can be subject to more mechanical problems and potentially even safety issues as they're going down the road. So you got to be a real risk taker. It's got to be an enormous price advantage to make it worth doing. I don't hear either here. Mitchell is with us on the Clank Howard Show. Hello, Mitchell.
Hi, Clark. How are you?
Great, thank you. You are how old?
I'm 17.
And you're calling me at 17?
Yes, I am, Clark.
About wanting to save money?
Yes, yeah, for college.
All right, so where did that come from in you? Because that's an unusual thing for a 17-year-old to be focusing on.
Yeah, so I started at 15 starting a business, and then I'm 17 now. In the past 2 years, I ran 3 businesses. So
wow.
Yeah.
So you were like a born entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think so.
So the businesses you started, are they generating profit?
All 3 of them have generated profit for me.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So that's very impressive,
Thank you.
You have just the most wide options available, but my favorite is that you have the ability, because you have earned income, to throw money into a Roth IRA.
Okay.
And you're familiar with Roths? Have you heard me talk about them?
Yeah, of course. Yes, I have, Clark.
So you put money into a Roth up to $5,500.
Okay.
That money can grow tax-free for the rest of your life.
Wow.
And then it's spent tax-free once you're, 42 years older than you are now. But in 42 years, the money grows by an amazing power.
Okay.
Because the money will likely double that you put in today every 7 to 10 years.
Wow.
And so you could end up more likely 8 to 10 years. You could end up with an enormous sum of money down the road.
Yeah.
You also have an option if you have more excess cash, you can do something known as a Sept, Simplified Employee Pension, in addition to the Roth, which would give you a current tax deduction you may not need, but you have the ability to have that money grow tax sheltered for the next 40-some-odd years, and then when you'd spend it, it would be subject to tax. The one thing you would not want to do is put money into a 529 college savings plan like you hear me talk about.
Yep.
If you think you might be eligible for college financial aid.
Okay.
Because if you own a 529 account in your own name, it hurts your ability to qualify for financial aid.
Oh.
But if you have enough money, you could give, are your parents living?
Yeah, both parents are living.
Okay, you could have one of your parents set up a 529 account, and you give them the money to fund it with you as the beneficiary.
Okay.
And then it affects you completely differently for financial aid.
Oh, awesome.
Okay, so I must tell you, over the years, this is only the second time I can remember that I heard from a successful teenage entrepreneur who was asking me what to do with all the money you're making.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. One thing I do want to say in addition, I'd love for you to take some of the money you've been successful making and do something nice for yourself.
Okay.
Have you splurged with any of the money?
Oh, yeah. So I bought a truck with some of the money, and then I'm currently financing part of it. So. Okay.
What do you want to study in college?
I'm taking finance currently. So my question for you was, so I'll hopefully some down the road, like become a financial manager or something like that. So my question is, should I do finance, get an undergrad in finance, and then go get an MBA, or should I do finance and accounting, a dual major as undergrad, and then maybe either become a CPA or? Well,
since you have a numbers-oriented kind of mind, finance and accounting would be ideal.
Okay.
I think that's a great choice. And sitting for the CPA exam, being a CPA has value. And having the finance background and a CPA is a great combination for you for career moving forward. But at 17, what you think you want to do may turn out to be very different 5 years from now.
Yeah.
So give yourself the freedom to say, hey, I thought I wanted to do this. I'd really like to do this other thing.
Okay.
Because you sound like you're going to be successful at whatever you really put your mind and your heart into.
Thank you, Clark.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Kathy's with us on the Clank Howard Show. Hello, Kathy.
Hey, Clark.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You have found some money.
I found some money, but they want some info that I'm not so sure that I want to disclose.
How did you find the money?
Well, I went to the website in your article.
Oh, missingmoney.com?
Yes. And
great.
It was in another state at a former residence. It doesn't tell me how much money it is. It just says from telecommunications. So I click on it, and it takes me to the state claim form, and they want all my personal information, and they want the driver's license, and they want the Social Security number. Well, I've always been told, don't disclose that either over the phone or on the Internet.
Yeah, so in this case, I'm going to say this is an exception to the rule.
Okay.
Because what they're doing at these state unclaimed property offices is they want you to give them enough identifying information that they feel comfortable that you've verified who you really are.
Okay.
And because they didn't contact you, you found your way to the state unclaimed property office. You don't have to worry that somebody's a scammer trying to pretend they have a refund for you.
Okay.
So in this case, it is, and I've filed unclaimed money forms before myself.
Okay.
In this case, it is standard operating procedure that you have to give pretty intrusive information to get the money, just so they can verify you are who you say you are.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Well,
I hope you got a ton of money there.
I hope so too, Clark.
Okay. All right.
I'll let you know.
All right. Great. Thanks. Here on the Clank Howard Show, it's my job to make sure you're aware of ways people might rip you off, might scam you in today's Clark-rageous moment.
Scams, rip-offs, outrages. It's a Clark-rageous moment.
There is an ugly one that's been ongoing involving people who own their own businesses. I need to tell you, yet another criminal ring was busted, this time in Nigeria, that had been stealing money from so many American businesses. And the way it works is the people behind this will crack into your business email, and they will either generate false invoices that supposedly your business owes, or they will change the payee address for legitimate invoices that your business owes. And so you end up paying money instead of to the legitimate organization that you were paying to. You end up paying money to the criminals that have compromised your business email system. You need to know that they are so successful at being able to do this that in very short periods of time, they steal millions of dollars from compromised accounts. What you need to do at your business is, before any money, as an example, one of the most common things the criminals have done is they send wiring instructions to your bank to wire money out of your account to a vendor that you supposedly owe. The vendor is the crook, and they're having the money wired to them, and before you know it, all the money is gone from your account. One of the easiest precautions you should take at your business is that you set up with your bank that no wires are paid until there's cross-verification with the business, usually by talking with an official at your business. Banks don't really like to do it. It's extra labor. Make them do it because you're the customer. Because once that money goes, it's gone forever. With any address change that is given to you by a vendor, you need to have a procedure to verify that that address change is valid. Otherwise, again, your money takes a one-way trip. The criminals are very clever. The scandals continually morph. And it's up to you as a business to protect yourself by putting procedures in place that will keep the criminals at bay.
Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans proudly supports this podcast. Rocket Mortgage brings the mortgage approval process into the 21st century. It's fast, powerful, and completely online. You see, Rocket Mortgage has taken all the complicated, time-consuming parts of applying for a mortgage out of the equation. Hate searching through stacks of old files and paperwork? Well, with Rocket Mortgage, you can easily share your bank statements and pay stubs at the touch of a button. It helps you get approved in minutes for a custom mortgage solution that's been tailored to your unique financial situation. Even better, with Rocket Mortgage, you can do all of this on your phone or tablet. It's a quick online process that you can manage from the convenience of your couch. So if you're looking to refinance your mortgage or buy a home, check out Rocket Mortgage today at quickenloans.com/save. That's quickenloans.com/SAVE. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030.
I'm so glad you're with us on the Clank Howard Show, where it's about you learning ways to save more and spend less, and don't let anybody ever rip you off. You can follow me at facebook.com/Clank Howard. Our web address, clark.com, which is CLARK.com. You got a question for me, clark.com/ask. But if you just have a question that you want to get answered, do you know that you can get that for free from us? 9 hours a day, Monday to Friday. We provide off-the-air advice for nothing where you can talk with a member of Team Clark. The phone number, the hours that it's available are explained at clark.com. We got to talk. If you are a couch potato, the cost to you is so strong, it's amazing. There was, this is shocking to believe that somebody had the patience to do this, but there was a 50-year study, 50-year study that was done in Sweden that was in cardiology journal. Cardiologists did this study, and they wrote the report. I wonder how many different cardiologists were involved to track people over 50 years. And the difference in lifespans of people that were tracked over those 50 years was shocking. If you are someone who is a real couch potato, you are 20+% more likely to face early death than the typical person, and you're 40% more likely to face early death than somebody who exercises routinely and regularly. Not exercising turned out to be more unhealthy for you than high blood pressure, for cholesterol, any of a number of things. And it was so stark over 50 years that I'll tell you, if you really do want to hang out on planet Earth a longer time, and you're somebody who has a lot of trouble getting motivated, follow my 1-minute rule. You know, I'm really big into people changing habits in little tiny bite-sized morsels. And if you are just not active at all, I promise if you can adopt my 1-minute rule, it will change your health and potentially your lifespan. Here's how it works. Today, you get out and walk for 1 minute. Tomorrow, you step it up another minute and you walk for 2. And the next day, 3 minutes. Next day after that, 4 minutes. And every day for 30 days, you raise it a single minute. If you, as someone who never does any activity at all, if you get out today and you decide, hey, I'm going to change my habits, I'm going to go walk for a half hour or whatever, it'll be a one-time thing. You have to, the more important thing is building up the habit and building up the endurance. So the everyday is core and key. And the gradual increase is essential. So you do those two things in combination, 30 days from now, you will have hopefully built a habit that will change your life. You know I'm supposed to be about your physical fitness, but what good is it if I get you physically strong if you're not here to enjoy it or to be with your family and friends and loved ones? So most Americans are couch potatoes. Let's change that, and change that starting today. Use an app on your phone. Use a little notepad or something where you motivate yourself. If you have an Android phone, Google has a thing that will pester you every day to work out. And every time you bring your phone live, it will ask you if you've worked out yet today. Whatever it takes to be that nag that gets you to change your habits, think about how much more life you could have. Lorenzo's with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hello, Lorenzo. How are you?
Pretty good, Clark. How are you doing?
Great, thank you.
Okay, I have a question to ask you, okay? A local bank has a promotion, right? And now it's through a third party, okay, where they will give you 2% interest on your money up to $10,000 if you have a debit. They give you a free debit card, a free checking account, and all that, but you must use a debit card so many times during the month. And,
is it 10 or 12 times a month?
Something like that, yes, sir. Okay. And the interest rate they offer is 2%, and they'll do that up to $10,000. Now, the bank I'm dealing with, the savings ad, they only pay 0.15%.
All right, so let me tell you what this is all about. And there are banks doing this as well, Lorenzo.
Yeah, the bank is offering it, but it's through a third party, you know?
Yeah, so banks, credit unions, a number of smaller banks and credit unions do this because this is how it works. Mm-hmm. They make big money every time you use your bank or credit union issued debit card, and when they ask you credit or debit, you say credit.
Okay.
Does it say that you have to say?
I really didn't look into it that much. I just saw the stuff I told you I know.
All right,
I don't know if it's that or not.
Normally what happens is they make enough money off the credit card processing fees to be able to pay you the 2% plus make money for the credit union or the bank.
There's no caveat to that then?
No caveat to that at all. I mean, it's terrible for the merchant that you go use the debit card at.
Yes.
But it's great for you because you're turning what you're earning basically nothing on at 0.15 of 1%.
Yes.
You're turning that into 2%. interest rate. You just got to make sure that you get that debit card used the number of times, 12 times a month, 10 times a month, whatever.
Whatever it is, yeah.
Yeah. You got to make sure you use it that number of times per month, and you're going to get that money.
Yeah, they said if you don't use it that many times, the percentage rate goes down to 0.05%, I believe it is.
Yeah, and you want that 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to get that use done.
Okay.
So go for it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, have a great day.
You too. Bye now.
Bye. And Jesse's with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hello, Jesse. How are you doing?
Pretty good, Clark. How about yourself?
Great, thank you.
I got a question for you. I live in Southern California, and I purchased an earthquake policy, and I was wondering if that's really a smart idea or not.
Yes. You're a homeowner?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Because what's happened, it's just like Floridians who, if they don't buy separate hurricane policies, what's usually referred to in Florida as windstorm policies, then they're not covered for their home in the event of a hurricane. It's kind of like the flood insurance thing. If somebody is in a flood zone and they don't get flood insurance, their homeowner's policy says, well, we're not covering that. What's happened is that over the last 20 years, homeowners insurance has gone from being pretty much blanket coverage for anything that happens to your home to having one exception after another after another. And in California, obviously, you're prone to the risk of an earthquake. And so having an earthquake either as a rider to a traditional homeowners policy or a separate earthquake insurance policy is something that I think is a great idea.
Okay, it's being issued from the California Earthquake Authority, and their disclosure says that, if for some reason they have a lot of earthquakes or a series of earthquakes and they become insolvent, they're not guaranteed to the California Insurance Guarantee Association. So if they're out of money, I'm assuming that I'm not going to get reimbursed for my loss.
Yeah, so this is the same issue going back to Florida again. Florida has ended up with most of the homeowners insurance to people on the coast being sold by basically a state-run insurer for homes.
Okay.
And because the big insurers around the country were like, we can't handle insuring anybody in Florida, too much risk, and the state ended up having to take on that responsibility. So the state of Florida is not on the hook either, and because they don't want to put the full faith and credit of the state on the hook if there was like a hurricane of biblical proportions.
Right.
And so you got the same issue involved where the state of California isn't putting its full faith and credit behind the earthquake insurance. But as an alternative, I don't know what the alternative is.
Okay.
For people in Florida,
to keep the earthquake insurance, though.
I'm sorry?
It's still a good idea to retain my earthquake insurance.
I absolutely think so. How much does it cost you a year?
It costs me almost $900 a year, $875.
And your house is worth how much?
It's probably about a little over $400,000. I got about
sounds like a good $900 a year to spend.
Okay.
You know what I call homeowners insurance in the state of Florida?
What's that?
We pretend we cover you for a hurricane. And so in your case, they're pretending they cover you for an earthquake, and they really mean it if it's not one that's so much that it wipes out the system.
Right, and the deductible's pretty high on it also. I don't know if that's the case in Florida with their hurricanes also.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so it's very similar to Florida's situation with hurricanes. Got it.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so insurers are saying, we're going to cherry pick what risk we take on, and then homeowners are left without a full basket of coverage, and then you have to go pick up these additional policies, and that's exactly what you face, Jesse. But you don't want an earthquake to take away $400,000 of hard-earned money from you. Jason joins us on the Clark Howard Show. Hi, Jason.
Yes, sir.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. How you doing, Clark?
Good, thank you.
I have a question. Me and my wife are in the market to buy a house. We actually almost we got approved for a house, and was in the process of buying it. However, we sit down this last weekend and really figured out our finances as far as every bill that we had, tithing for church, everything. And after, adding the mortgage in and everything, after it was all said and done, we were going to have about $800 a month left over for unexpected expenses, going to the movies, stuff like that. We did factor in gas on our budget. But we kind of, although $800 a month extra kind of sounded pretty good, we figured that's not near enough to have extra because of those unexpected expenses.
Well, I would say that you must have been born on Mars, because the typical American would be like, I have $8 surplus a month. I'm in. Here you are with what works out to be $10,000 a year. I'm impressed with how cautious and careful you are, that you've done the budgeting, that you figured out that you will have a surplus. And I have a different question for you, okay?
Okay.
What do you pay per month now for your housing?
Well, as of right now, we're living with my parents, so we are paying nothing.
Nothing. Okay, so whatever you do is going to be an expense. What is your combined income?
After taxes, $5,000 a month.
Okay, and what kind of monthly mortgage payment would you face?
Well, for the house we were looking at, it was going to be $1,200, which
that's absolutely fine. I think you can handle that.
Okay. We kind of, by our calculations, we was thinking that we needed about $1,500 a month left over after all our bills. But I didn't know if there was a calculation you could do for that.
Yeah, I mean, I just did it by asking you those questions, because you'd be paying a little less than 25% of your net pay for your mortgage, and plus you'll have maybe a minor mortgage interest deduction that will chip at that a little bit, and that's absolutely doable. Okay,
because our calculations, we had thought we didn't need to pay over $900 a month for a mortgage. Now, when this includes homeowners insurance and property taxes, correct? As far as what you're saying, that $1,200 is doable.
Yeah, I think people would go higher than that and think it's just fine. But
yeah, because they'll approve you. I mean,
and what they approve you for has nothing to do with what kind of hardship you can create living month to month.
Exactly.
But in your case, with that kind of conservative nature that you have, you're going to be just fine at $1,200 a month. I don't worry about you at all. I have to gauge the attitude of the person, and you are just fine handling that obligation. I promise. Follow me at facebook.com/Clark Howard. Our web address, clark.com. When you got a question for me, go clark.com/ask. Joel, who do we have an Ask Clark from?
Clark, Joe wrote in. He says, is it better to leave an air conditioner on when you go to work or to turn it off completely?
How about you gave me an A or a B, you didn't give me a C, because you don't want to do either A or B. C is the right answer. You turn the temperature up on your thermostat. So in the summer cooling months, if you like to leave your house at 72 when you're there, when you go to work, turn it to 78. You don't want to turn it super hot, but 78 will work. Generally, about 6 degrees above the temperature that you're comfortable in. If you normally keep your house at 74, turn it up maybe to 80 degrees when you're not there. In the winter, you just reverse that. If you keep your house heated to 72 degrees, you would turn it down to 66 or 65 when you're off at work. And I love using the Nest thermostat. It's one of several artificial intelligence thermostats that learns your pattern, and before you even get home, it will start cooling the house again. And it will save you a lot of money. And at the same time, you don't want to turn units off and then back on when you return, because they have to work too hard to get you back to an ideal temperature.
Clark, Jean wrote in. She said, where can I find cheap NFL tickets?
cheap NFL tickets is NFL games used to be in most cities what are known as hard sellouts, but because of everybody having the fancy flat screen TVs, even teams that have sellouts tend to have what are known as soft sellouts, except for the biggest of games. Go on StubHub the weekend of the game, and you should be able to find a good deal on tickets for the NFL. Most cities, most games.
You know, there's something about TrueCar that a lot of people don't even know. Here it is. Using TrueCar can also help you buy a used car. That's right. In fact, there are over 500,000 pre-owned vehicles available from TrueCar's certified dealers nationwide. So whether you're looking to buy a brand new car or a used car, you can get all the upfront pricing information that empowers you. You can also get discounts off the list price for used cars and a totally better buying experience through the TrueCar certified dealer network. That's where you see what other people paid for the car that you want, so you know you're getting a fair price and you can feel confident. And with TrueCar, you connect with a local certified dealer of your choice, so you can enjoy a quick, easy buying experience. You can use the TrueCar website or the TrueCar app, so it's easy to find the new or used car that you want. You just take your guaranteed savings certificate to a TrueCar certified dealer, and you'll save money on that used car. And if you're buying new, the average TrueCar user saves $3,279 off MSRP. Over 2 million people have already bought their cars through the TrueCar certified dealer network. So if you're ready to buy a new or used car, visit TrueCar.com or take it with you by downloading the TrueCar app and enjoy a better car buying experience. Some features are not available in all states.
I'm so glad you're with us on the Clark Howard Show, where it's about you learning ways to save more and spend less. And don't let anybody ever rip you off. Our web address, clark.com, CLARK.com. You got a question for me, clark.com/ask. And coming up in a half hour, have you considered buying a home? Fewer and fewer Americans answer yes to that. When is it that you should really look at buying a home? And when are you better off renting? And if you are ready to buy a home, there are things you need to know. Speaking of things you need to know, listen to this. Survey says, done by the National Federation of Independent Business, the number one challenge that businesses are having today is finding people that are qualified to fill the jobs that are open. So half of all businesses, said they could not find applicants that could fill the jobs that they're begging people to fill at this moment. And by the way, there's a real mismatch, not just in skills, but in where people look. The number one mistake of job seekers is to apply for jobs to companies that are well-known household names. Those places always get a huge number of job applicants. But the job growth in the country is historically and today with new businesses and small businesses, the no names. You know, there was something I used to recommend to people going all the way back pre-internet era. I would tell people to go to nondescript suburban office and business parks and write down the names of companies that were in those business parks, and then go to this is how I used to have to say it. I'd say go to the library and see about those companies. That was a lot of work. Today, if you go and look at the business park or office park and you get a list of company names, you then go straight to your phone while you're sitting there in the office park or business park and start looking up who those companies are and what they do. And those companies that nobody's ever heard of, they're the ones with the greatest opportunity. See what they do. See if it's stuff you're interested in, and then direct contact them. You know, I always talk about jobs being wired, where employers generally have already decided who's going to fill a job before it's posted. And that's true at big companies, those big companies that people apply to in huge numbers. But it's certainly not true at the smaller businesses. Those businesses, for lack of a better thing, calling them no names. So if you want to be in a position where you have better opportunity of getting a job that would be a job you really want to have, remember this. Half of all those small businesses out there can't find the applicants they're looking for. Sometimes it is a skill-based problem where there's a mismatch and people need to go get skills in order to fill those jobs. But many other times it's that people with the skills don't even know that employer is out there and has that job sitting empty with your name on it. Mike is with us on the Clank Howard Show. Mike?
Hi.
Tell me, Mike, you are a new landlord, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I'm a new landlord. I'm learning how to deal with the situation. And I tried to contact, one of those, I'm trying to get the tenant screening, the best way to do tenant screening. Yes. And I'm going online and looking here and there and trying to get help. So I was wondering, I know where to go to find help, the good old doctor,
okay.
Dr. Clark.
So you have not rented the property yet. You want to make sure you rent to the right person.
No, I rented one about a year and a half ago, but through an agent. But the agent didn't want it to the broker. The broker, after they received the money, they didn't want to give me the money. They keep dragging their feet. So it took me like about 3 months to get the money.
Really?
The money. Yeah. So that's why I wanted to avoid.
Wow, I'll tell you, Mike, that's unusual because usually. When you use a professional property manager, a lot of their business is built by word of mouth. One happy landlord tells another, and that's how they build business. And so most landlord services pay at they'll pay like by the 10th of the month for that month's rent or whatever. They settle up pretty quickly. And that's unusual that you had a property manager who was not doing the job right.
Yeah,
sorry about that.
I'm thinking about doing it this time myself because I'm familiar with everything. Sure. I listen to your show, so I'm good enough to do it myself. So I thought,
okay. Let me tell you what you have to do. You have to do an application that an applicant. When an applicant wants to rent the place, they have to fill out a tenant application form, and in it they have to give you written permission for you to run a background check or a credit check, and you can decide how extensive a check you want to run. And with an application for a new tenant, they pay an application fee, right? If you go to an apartment complex and you apply, you pay an application fee. So you charge the tenant what it costs you to run a background check or a credit check.
Exactly.
And there's a website I like for new landlords called landlord.com.
Yeah, I went there already, and I called them and trying to get this screening, but they never answered my phone call. I did half a dozen times.
Well,
I left a message and everything,
I've never heard of being able to talk to somebody there. That's not a process I'm familiar with. My familiarity is that you do everything. You register there and you do everything there in terms of being able to run the credit, and they give you the application and all that. And there's also something that TransUnion offers, which is a tenant screening where you say you're a landlord and you can set up an account, and through them you can set up for the tenant screening.
Yeah, that one is probably requires the other party to do their own checking, and then something like, they have to involve the other party also, the tenant, right?
You always have to involve the tenant. The tenant always has to give permission, and it is a common strategy that landlords will use to check the credit of people is to use the mysmartmove.com site. So those are the two best strategies I know for you to do it. Just remember that you must have written permission from your tenant to run credit, or in the case of TransUnion, the tenant is going in and giving express permission on that website for you to have access to their credit. So there is no question that credit permission was properly obtained. And you do that, you're going to be able to run that background you need to make sure you're renting to somebody who has good credit. Now, let me say something to you.
Go ahead.
Mike, I am comfortable renting to someone who does not have good credit. I just need to know they don't have good credit. And then the terms and conditions of me renting to them are different. Deposits required and things like that are different. So getting the pulse of somebody's payment history by pulling their credit, or that they've had, let's say, a bankruptcy or a foreclosure or whatever, it gives you the information to either say, this isn't worth it to me to do, or I need to set up special terms and conditions for that person to be my tenant. Kathleen's with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hi, Kathleen.
Hello.
You have a credit question for me, too.
Yes, I was reading on your webpage about freezing credit to protect you from fraud, and I saw you had the links to the different credit reporting agencies, and I wondered if you had to go on to all of them and individually do it?
Yes.
Oh.
Because the credit bureaus hate credit freeze. They hate it with a passion. Because what happens once you freeze your credit is the way the credit bureaus make their money is they build dossiers on all of us. And then they sell off that information over and over and over again. 90% of the time, we're not even aware they're selling off our dossiers, selling off our information continuously. So when you freeze your credit, you shut them down and you eliminate how they make most of their money. So that's why the credit bureaus have not made it easy and have not been required by any legislation to make it easy for people to use the best identity theft tool that exists in the United States, which is credit freeze. So what you have to do is you have to register, Kathleen, with Equifax. You have to do a separate registration with TransUnion and a separate one with Experian. And doing all three of those, you need to set aside about 15 minutes to do the paperwork with each of the three online.
Okay. And then if I would want it unfrozen, I'd have to do all three again.
Well, it's much quicker to thaw.
Oh.
And because you're assigned a secret code by each bureau, and when you need to, let's say you're going to apply for credit somewhere, if you know that they're pulling a TransUnion credit report, you only need to thaw your TransUnion. If you're, depending on the lender, usually they're only pulling one report. So they may tell you, it's an Experian you need to thaw. Or it's an Experian that we pull, and then that tells you I need to thaw that one. If you apply for a mortgage, you always have to thaw all three.
Good.
And a thaw is a temporary thing for a time period you decide on. And so thawing, I had to thaw all three of my credit reports. I'm forgetting why. A few months ago. And it took me about 7 minutes to thaw the three of them. About half what it takes to freeze the three of them initially.
Good to know. Well, I just wasn't sure.
I mean, it should be easier, but it's not terribly difficult. And it sure is great peace of mind that I know my credit's frozen, and when I get one of those letters that your personal information may have leaked, but we're not sure if your information has been used, blah, 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 like the Target letters and all the others I get. And so I don't have to worry because my credit is frozen. And when it's frozen, you can still use all the credit you have, Kathleen. None of that changes. It's just applying for new credit you can't do until you thaw. Follow me at facebook.com/Clark Howard. Our web address, clark.com. When you got a question for me, go clark.com/ask. Jack is with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hi, Jack.
Hey, Clark. How are you?
Great, thank you. You have a question about your parents?
That's correct.
What's up with them?
Well, my parents are 76 and 71 respectively, and I'd like to try to help them invest some of their nest egg. All of their money is in cash and CDs right now, and I was wondering if you have any recommendations of where we could go.
Well, the money that they have sitting in cash and CDs, do they need it to live on, or are they doing just fine with Social Security and whatever if they have a pension of any kind?
No, sir, they're great at saving. They're doing just fine with the money that they get every month.
Okay, so if they don't need this money, this is potentially an asset that kids will inherit?
Well, that's correct, but nevertheless, it's painful to watch it sit there in savings accounts and
not get anywhere. So
exactly.
I have a couple of ideas, something you may not have considered, but they can give money to their kids while they're living if it's money they're not going to need. They can give up to $14,000 per parent to each child. So they could essentially give you $28,000 each year. How many siblings are there?
It's just two of us.
So they could give each of you an amount of cash up to $28,000 for you, $28,000 for your sibling each year, and move money now out of their estate tax-free.
Okay.
And if that doesn't interest you, and they have no need for any of this money, but you will, are you and your sibling going to inherit this money when they do pass away?
I imagine so, yes, sir.
Okay. So then, if it's money they're not going to need in the rest of their lives, yes, you're right. The money should be invested because it will leave a better legacy from them to the next generation if the money is invested.
Right.
And so there are very simple ways to do it, but because of their ages and the fact that they've been great savers, I would strongly recommend, they have wills done?
They do.
That you encourage them to sit down with a fee-only financial planner to come up with the best strategy for what their will already intends so that this money will grow nicely. Hopefully they'll both live a very, very long time to come, and that the money sitting there will be a nest egg for the heirs.
Okay.
But I like the idea of sitting down with a fee-only financial planner, and there are two strategies with that. One is where you go to a fee-only financial planner to get a prescription, essentially. Go do this with the money. And then the other is where you have an ongoing relationship with a fee-only planner who guides your parents in investing the money for years to come. But if it's money they don't need now or in the future, absolutely it should not be sitting in a bank account. And Jack, I have suggestions about how to get a good fee-only financial planner at Clark.com.
Research has shown that sitting all day is bad for your health, but standing all day really isn't that much better for you. That's why it's so exciting to know that with Veridesk's height-adjustable standing desk solutions, you can stand when you want to and sit when you need to. Veridesk converts your existing desk or cubicle to a sit-stand workstation, and it allows you to raise from a seated to standing position in just seconds. It ships fully assembled, so there's no Allen wrenches or screwdrivers required. You just pull it out of the box, and you put it right there on your desk. There's no installation or fastening required. By using a Veridesk sit-stand desk, you make health and fitness a part of your workday, instead of just something that you do before or after work. You'll be more productive, you'll have less back pain, you'll have better energy, and it's likely to boost your metabolism. Plus, they've got different models you can choose from. So there's a Veridesk that will fit in your workspace, whether it's at home, the office, a corner office, a cubicle, a corner, even a full desk replacement. And they're all affordable. The models start at just $175. And here's the really cool part. If you're not sure the Veridesk is right for you, they have a 30-day risk-free guarantee, which lets you try it out in your home or office. And if you decide it's not for you, they'll arrange to pick it up. You don't have to do anything. To read the amazing reviews and find the model that's right for you, just go to Veridesk.com. That's V-A-R-I desk.com. Veridesk.
Stay tuned for 60 seconds of AP News headlines right after this podcast.
I'm glad you're with us on the Clark Howard Show. It's about you learning ways to keep more of what you make. Our web address, clark.com. You got a question for me, clark.com/ask. You can follow me at facebook.com/Clark Howard. The percent of people owning their own home or buying with having a mortgage on it is at the lowest level in perhaps 50 years. People don't have as much desire to own a home today, and many people in their 20s and 30s who would normally be buying their first home either are not buying one because they don't want one, or not buying one because of student loan debt, or are underemployed and don't feel equipped right now to buy one. So the home market has changed. A lot of people who'd buy what used to be called a starter home when they were often in their mid to late 20s now are saying, nah, I'll just rent. And in many places in the country, that has pushed rents up. And it's not at all unusual for the cost of owning a home to be cheaper per month now than renting. So does that mean you should buy one? Not necessarily. If you're not where you want to be with your life or your career, you're not quite sure where that is right now, buying a home is a lot easier than later trying to sell it. So you want to have some sense, nobody's got a perfect crystal ball, but you want to have some sense that you're going to be in that place, stay in that place for a number of years. My favorite target is that you buy a home that you intend to be in 7 years or longer. And 7 years confuses people. How do I come up with that? Well, the reason is that there's so many costs involved in buying a home and so many involved when you sell that I generally shorthand it the 10 in, 10 out rule, that you will spend roughly 10% of the cost of a home and all the expenses involved in occupying that home, and roughly 10% on the exit with commissions and other selling expenses. So that's why, to overcome those expenses, and also that a housing market can have some short-term ups and downs. We saw big downs last decade, but in a more normal market, which is more like what we're in now, you can have some ridges and valleys, but that's why 7 years puts you completely in the safe zone. The great news about buying today is that builders are building at the highest rate they have been in a long time. So inventory concerns are starting to ease at some of the lower price points, except in scattered markets in the U.S. like San Francisco, where everything is $1 zillion. But there's going to be more affordability. But if you are looking at buying your first home, know that you get far more square footage for your dollar if you buy a used home instead of a new. And if you buy a used home, values in the marketplace where you're buying are pretty well clear and established. When you buy in a brand new neighborhood, it's just really unclear where values are going to settle. So there's more stability and less risk in the price when you buy used. And in addition, you get so many more square feet per dollar buying a used one versus a new one. There are people who just love, though, being the first person to ever live in a house, having that new house experience where it is your place and you're the first people ever to be there. If that's really important to you, just know you're paying more for that privilege. Robert, you got a tax question for me. How are you doing?
Doing great, Clark. How are you today?
Wonderful, thank you.
The question I have is, how long should I retain my tax returns and any supporting documentation?
Well, I save my returns and supporting documentation forever. I can go to my basement and I can find tax records from decades ago. And that's an extreme position.
Well, that's what I've got right now. I've got them to go back to 73, 74.
So as far as what I would recommend that would be more rational than what you or I do is that for the first 6 tax years from the current year, you keep everything, your returns and all the supporting documents.
Okay.
But for years older than 6 years, just your returns themselves should be sufficient.
Okay.
The reason is that if the IRS alleges you failed to file, there's no statute on that and then go back forever.
Okay.
But if you can say, wait, I keep all my records, here's my return from that year, they'll waive you off, you'll be okay.
Okay.
But documentation, I think for 6 years is sufficient other than the return itself. So I would say all those returns from the 70s, the 80s, through the 90s, you can skedaddle everything except the returns themselves, and clear out 95% of what you have.
Okay.
And then only the most recent years, you want the documentation.
Okay.
And that'll clear out some clutter.
That would. Thank you.
Sure. Follow me at facebook.com/Clark Howard. Our web address, clark.com. When you got a question for me, go clark.com/ask. James joins us on the Clark Howard Show. Hello, James.
Hi, Clark. How are you?
Great. Thank you, James. You got a question for me about something you think I said, but you want to check it out. Is that right?
That's right. I know you're a big proponent of Roth IRAs and 401ks, and my company offers both. And I know that the way you've explained it in the past is that it's kind of like a savings account, but that's not the experience I'm having with my company's plan.
Okay, so let me draw a distinction for you. What I've said is that Roth IRAs have a component that can be used as an emergency fund, but that does not apply to 401ks or Roth 401ks.
That's what I'm finding out as well.
So what is it you're trying to accomplish? And let me see if I can help you get something close done.
Well, I was trying to free up a little bit of extra money that about 2 years ago, our company started offering a Roth 401k, and I took advantage of that and started putting 50%, and then I changed it all to 100% of my contributions going to the Roth. And so I just approached our controller and asked her if I had the option with our plan to withdraw some of that money to help pay off some debts we have.
You do not. That's the answer she gave you too, right?
That is correct, and so did our representative at our retirement plan.
You do have an option, if your employer offers it, of borrowing from your Roth 401k account to do a loan for a certain amount of money that you then have to pay back, usually in 60 months, to the plan itself, if your employer permits loans against your 401k or Roth 401k accounts.
Yes, I listening to you, I followed up with that question after they had said no about, being able to withdraw the funds, and our plan does not allow it. They would have to vote on it, and our board of directors would have to allow that.
Wow, that's messy. So let's talk about alternatives. The debts that you have, what kind are they, and are they causing you not to sleep well at night?
Well, lots of things cause me not to sleep well at night, but it's mostly credit card debt. It has a lot to do with my wife and I just had a son. He just turned 1, and our daughter is entering parochial school, and among all the other
those kids.
Bills and things, yeah, it's mounting. So I'm just trying to free up a little bit extra money every month.
All right, so I would tell you that I hate to say this, but it sounds like you should reduce the amount you're contributing to the 401k.
Okay.
What percent of your pay are you contributing now?
Well, actually, I did reduce mine. I was up at 10%, and I reduced it to 3%. My company does not match, and it is, helping out some. I've been actually taking that money and applying it to the debt.
Okay, and so you're giving net of tax, you're getting like 5% more in your check that
Correct.
You can put towards the debt. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's about right.
So I hate for you to not be contributing as much to your retirement account, but if the building's burning down, it's a good idea. And when you have credit card debt that is eating at you, that to me is like the building burning down. So in your case, I think you made the right choice.
Okay.
But if I didn't explain well before about what I mean about the using a Roth as a savings account, I apologize, because that only applies to a Roth IRA, not a Roth 401k.
Okay, it's good to know.
Okay.
I appreciate the information.
Good luck to you, and congratulations on the birth of your child.
Thanks so much.
Okay. Joanne joins us on the Clark Howard Show. Hi, Joanne.
Hi, Clark.
Joanne, you retired.
Yes, I'm a retired teacher.
Well, how many years did you teach?
31.
And what age did you teach?
The last half was high school.
Really? 11th and 12th graders?
10th graders.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. And did they, as you went through the years, did they become less respectful, or were they the same all through your teaching career?
Well, I taught college bound, so I didn't see so much of that.
Oh, that's good.
I had the highly motivated students.
Great.
Yes.
Well, how can I serve a retired teacher?
Okay. Being an English teacher, I'm not familiar with investing at all. I've just, saved money over the years, but haven't really done investing. I started putting money in a 457 back in the 90s.
Wow.
And, it took a long time to save it up, and now I'm looking into putting it into index funds, but then I started getting cold feet.
All right, so what are you going to live on month to month?
Well, I do have a pension. My husband still works, and he makes a very good income. When we went to the financial counselor at the Educational Community Credit Union, this counselor was pushing us towards annuities. It seemed that all she had available or wanted to talk about were annuities.
That upsets me very much.
Yeah, and I'm not comfortable with that. So I took your advice. We went to a fee-only counselor.
And that person, because you have the pension and your husband still working, encouraged you very much to do index funds with the money you have?
Right.
Well, I tend to feel much more like the fee-only planner you went to see. Because if it's money that you're not going to need for a good while, likely later in retirement when expenses kind of creep up on you.
Right.
I like the idea of you doing index investing.
Okay.
So I think that is good advice, but you don't want all your money in stock-type choices.
Okay. I also have over $48,000 in accumulated sick leave.
Wow.
But I was thinking that if they're both pre-tax, the 457 is pre-tax, this is pre-tax. To roll it over into an IRA I'm going with Vanguard, is that okay to say?
Yeah, of course. Sounds like a great choice to me.
Okay, at least I'm deferring the tax on it right now.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. I think that you've got maybe bad advice at first from the credit union. You've gotten good advice from the fee-only planner. You have a good, steady source of income from your husband's paychecks and your retirement money. I like it. Congratulations to you. Follow me at Facebook.com/Clark Howard. Our web address, Clark.com. When you got a question for me, go Clark.com/ask. And Jim joins us. Hello, Jim. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Clark?
Great. You have a question about your daughter.
Yeah, I was trying to get her straighten out her finances. She got kind of overcome with bills and stuff. She's got some kids, and he had a credit card bill that she had made a payment since November of 2013. So the credit card company wrote it off and gave it to a collection agency. So they're asking less than the full amount. It was like $3,200 or something. They were asking $2,200. So I guess my question is, if you pay them less than the full amount, what do you have to get from them so that they don't?
That is a great question and a very important one. First, when they offer a settlement at a lower amount, the amount they offer that's an initial offer, and that is normally negotiable for an amount. But you must have in writing that payment of whatever dollars constitutes payment in full.
Okay.
That's the terminology, because anything other than that, they can then come back later, reload, and either they or another collection agency attempt to collect. So that's why in writing you have to have something saying that it settles the debt in full.
I see. So because my understanding is that once the credit card company writes it off and reports it to the credit agency, that at that point, like, the damage is done, and settling for less doesn't really hurt you any more than what's already happened.
Right. Once that shows no balance owed, it will help heal her credit over time.
No, I see.
As long as the balance is there, it just eats up her credit. But also, she probably has a number of late pays on her credit report.
Right.
So we're talking a couple of years for her to really mend her credit.
Right. Well, that's what I figured. But they have on there, it'll be there 7 years, 6 months or something.
Yeah. So here's the other thing.
It some way.
One other thing.
Yeah.
Is that, are you going to pay this for her?
Probably. Yeah.
All right. So pay by money order. Do not give them your credit card number. Do not give them your checking account number. You send the collection agency a money order so they have no access to your account numbers to try to get money later on, which is very easy if they have either account numbers from you.
Thanks for listening to the Clark Howard Podcast. Download new episodes every Monday through Friday at podcastone.com. That's podcastone.com. Stay tuned for the latest AP News headlines from Podcast One, right after this. When shopping for car insurance, consider this. Geico has been saving people money on car insurance for over 75 years. So if you're serious about savings, it's simple. Go to geico.com. After 75 years, they know how to save you money.
AP Update. I'm Rita Foley. Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson says investigators have ruled out terrorism as a possible cause of that train crash in New Jersey yesterday. The train was carrying commuters into New York City. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo.
It could be any number of things. It could be personal to the conductor. It could be an equipment failure. It could be anything. We have no idea.
NTSB Chairwoman Bella Denzar says this morning they hope to talk to the train engineer perhaps today.
We want to make sure we get all of the facts, and we're going to be interviewing anyone. We also ask people who may have information to let us know. We'll also be